In this episode of Mighty Car Mods, I'm taking my Lotus Exige S240 down to Haltech so I can run it on the dyno. Originally, this car left the factory with 240 horsepower at the engine, but what does that mean now? It's been over 10 years on the road and completed numerous track days, so how much power is it really making at the wheels? Today we're going to find out before embarking on some exciting performance modifications. We're also going to be busting some myths and mysteries around dyno power figures and learning all sorts of amazing education from our good mate Tuning Fork.
So I just got down to Haltech. Our good friends, of course, Dave and the Tuning Fork are here. We're going to put the Lotus on the dyno because it's completely untested at this point. This car is called a Lotus Exige S240 because it made 240 horsepower. But does it? Now, I'm sure it probably did, but I got a feeling some ponies have bolted the paddock. So today we're going to jump in. We're going to see just how much power it makes or doesn't make. Thank you so much for these guys are so busy all the time doing amazing things, making people's cars work all the time. That's why they're on the big dollars, and it's is that right? Sure. No, because I know your boss is going to see this. They're so busy and they've accommodated me at very short notice today, and I really appreciate it. So thank you very much, Scott. Thank you very much, Dave. I'm putting my hand up for pay rises for everyone. Everyone. All staff on behalf of you two. All right, let's jump in. The internet. I read the comments. You want to see Tuning Fork trying to get into a Lotus? It's about to happen. This leg in.
Yep, that's where I'd be going.
And then bum points away from the car, so you end up this way with your leg out.
Yep, that's where.
And then you fold your other one in. So
doing.
Get your left leg in first.
Yeah. All right. You know what? The one hint there though is first shoes off.
Oh yes.
Because that gives me an extra inch.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah.
Okay, so left leg in, but now face away from the car. Twist. That's it. Yeah, and then bum in. Now.
Yeah, this is the.
Now bring that one in. There it is.
You know what?
There it is.
Mate, to be honest,
you got room.
Headroom. I would rather be sitting in this than an 86. I'm not joking.
Really?
Yep, 100%.
Wow.
Knee to the corner here. In an 86, I pretty much I find myself driving down the highway and kind of riding the clutch every now and then because I'm so stuck.
Right.
I'll just leave it there, it'll be all right. It's not.
But here, as you release the clutch, you're going to be hitting the right indicator every time.
No, we're feeling pretty good.
Okay, great.
This is actually pretty spacious. The side thing here.
This is a weird thing, isn't it?
It's weird, but I've got a bit of experience with this because most of the cars that come in big cages in them have got exactly
maybe
this.
that's what's under there. Maybe that's what this is.
Makes sense. You're a bit off tilt here, eh? Feel a bit like you're being guided towards the middle.
Guided towards performance. Well, this whole pan bit here, my understanding is this is all kind of bonded aluminium. This whole thing weighs 60 kilos. And then they put the clamshells on it. Some like space age technology.
I like
from our friends in Norfolk.
I like where your feet are going. The what's that called when you put the holes in it and then put that nice shape? It's very pretty.
Oh, it's kind of very space age, isn't it? And this here is the Lotus cup holder.
No,
so
it's not.
This here was an option. So this car has all the options. Now the options are air conditioning and a head unit and that cup holder. It's not meant to come out. When you have a bespoke vehicle, that's just proof that it was handmade by some people somewhere.
You know what that looks like to me? If I pulled that out, right? If I went and played a game of golf and I hit my ball in the river.
Yes. Oh yeah, I see. Yes.
That's how you pick up your golf ball.
That was a good sound effect too. From the factory, 240 engine horsepowers. Mm-hmm. If you pulled one of these out of the factory on day one or after it's running and you put it on a dyno, what kind of approximate kilowatts at the wheels would we be getting, just so that everyone from the different regions around the world were all on the same kind of page?
In kilowatts in this, if being a 1.8 supercharged thing, I've never touched one of these, I don't know anything about them, but just that capacity of engine supercharged as a production car, if this was making 125, 130 kilowatts at the wheels, I'd think that would be probably where it needs to be to sell it as a supercharged sports car.
Okay, and does 240 horsepower at the crank versus the wheels after drivetrain loss and all the maths of that? Because there's so much talk about that all the time of how we work that out.
There's always magic, so between like horsepower in kilowatts, just a unit, no magic there, that's all pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
1 divided by 1.34 or times 1.34 horsepower in kilowatts, close enough. This drivetrain loss thing even baffles me.
Okay.
Because some people...
I'm so glad to hear that.
Some people tell me it's a percentage loss. So you make 100 horsepower, you're definitely...
20% loss though.
20%, 30%, 40%, whatever. It can't be a percentage because remember when we lose that power, it's
got to go somewhere, right?
It's going in heat, it's going in sound.
Yes.
So if we had a loss of 20%, for example, 20% of 1,000 horsepower or 20% of 100 horsepower.
Well, there'd be 200 horsepower of heat and sound somewhere.
That's a lot of heat and sound.
Yes.
And I find that hard to believe. So I believe that it's a lot more of a constant. Yes, there is a loss in friction. There's loss in, there's not so much a loss. We know where it's going. It's going in friction and it's going in heat through the gearbox. It's in auto trans. It'll be going through the torque converter, putting it into the oil. It's changing the direction. So as the tail shaft goes to the back of the car, for example, you'll go into a diff, which turns it into a right angle. So there's going to be a frictional loss there in the diff as well. Percentage loss, I don't think that's keen. Sorry, I think that's keen.
Tuning fork. Everybody, whatever you're doing right now, I want you to stop what you're doing, and in the comments, I want a clapping emoji right now. Someone's finally said what everyone's been too scared to say on the internet for a long time. You did it.
There's more to it than, admittedly, at the same time, when my car made 700 horsepower and I wanted 800 horsepower, I just assumed it had 100 horsepower of loss through the transmission.
10 out of 10 for honesty.
That makes sense.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, so we would be expecting when the car was new, maybe it made around 130 kilowatts at the wheels.
I would think that'd be pretty fair to say.
And now 10 years, 11 years later, we'll see if it's doing that or less or more, and we'll find out.
And over time, if the thing's driving good, doesn't misfire, doesn't carry on, doesn't smoke out the exhaust, I wouldn't expect much of it to have been lost. I would expect it to be running as good as it did 10 years ago.
Well, something's we've either lost some power there, or also I found out these tires have been on the car for years. Years and years and years. And so I'm just trying to ascertain what it is that's letting us down, what that weakest link is. And so here we are, and just for interest in science, I reckon we find out.
And before you modify your car, this being a dead standard thing, never a bad idea to go to the dyno, just ask for 3 power runs, just so that you can get a base of what power it makes at what engine RPM, so that once you start doing your mods, you can see value for money, and you can see maybe what is right and wrong in your car, and then you can recommend to your mates, well, do this and do this, but maybe don't worry about that because bang for buck, it wasn't worth it.
Ladies and gentlemen, another clap emoji. Did you already leave one before? Put another one in. I want double comment. Double comment for the truth, for the purity of the information. All right. Should we run it up?
Let's just run this thing up.
I'm just getting excited.
All right, it's time to go for our first run.
All right, so all we're gonna do today is, being factory computer, factory everything, all I wanna do is do 3 runs back to back.
Yep.
The first couple of runs just to warm it up and get everything sort of in sync and make sure that we're recording the right numbers and everything looks good.
Yep.
The third one, once the exhaust system's all heated up and everything's right, the third one is the power that it makes.
Great, let's do it.
All right, so we're away. Second, third.
Is this your first time driving a Lotus?
Fourth. I think it probably is.
Awesome.
I feel very fancy. Here we go. Up, full throttle, superchargers on, go.
Sounds amazing.
You can hear the supercharger squealing, eh?
That's a Corolla engine. 134.1 kilowatts. 180 horsepower.
180 horsepower, first pull. All right, let's go to the second one. On. Full throttle. Very, very So I'd say that we're in the ballpark. Full throttle, action. Can't argue with that.
Okay, amazing.
So the thing has not lost, I would say it hasn't lost anything at all. It's pretty much, it's as healthy as it's going to be, and it's kind of what we expected for the boost pressure that's got, which is somewhere between about 5.5 and 6.5 pounds of boost out of the supercharger. It's a 1.8 litre engine. It's got variable cam control. It's got VTEC, you know, on off.
Toyota's tech.
Yep, Toyota tech, very good. It made, after 3 pulls, it made 132 kilowatts, 132.3, and then 134.
Okay.
So definitely in the ballpark.
Yep.
We're going to round out the horsepower and say it makes 180 horsepower at the wheels at the rev limiter right up the top there, which it was bouncing off the rev limiter at 85.70, so 8,500 RPM. So because the thing's supercharged, it's really, really linear power. So if we look along the bottom here, we'll see that we started the dyno run, 60 k's an hour at 2,800 RPM.
Yep.
If we click here, it was making 33 kilowatts.
Yep.
Then the next one along at 80 kilometers an hour. So remember, we're in 4th gear, 80 kilometers an hour or 3,800 RPM. It's making close enough to 50 kilowatts.
Yep.
100 k's an hour, 70 kilowatts. 120 k's an hour, 90 kilowatts. This how it's real linear like that.
So linear, look at it.
We get that on aspirated V8 sort of stuff, so
Yep.
real big torquey engines,
Yep.
or anything that's supercharged.
Okay.
So the harder you rev it, the more power it makes. It's as simple as that. Whereas a turbocharged car, we
It's going to go like this, right? Come on.
So up,
Yep.
up here, down,
Sustain and then boom.
flat.
Yep, okay.
But this thing needs the revs to make the boost. If this has got 70 kilowatts here, even though it's got more outright power than the 86,
Yep.
I wonder with the 86 at 5,000 RPM,
Yep.
it probably has more than 70 kilowatts.
Which means I should be driving this up here. I should be driving it like a P-plater on his mum's Corolla.
The harder you can rev it, the better it's going to go in this particular application, yeah. Where I think that this car would be great to drive is because it's so linear. So wherever you put your foot down, it has a certain amount of power there and you know exactly what you're going to get, just like an aspirated motor. Whereas in a turbocharged car, if let's just pick
You
up
never know where you're going to land, right?
Well, yeah, if you put your foot down here, you might have 70 kilowatts if it's got 5 pounds of boost, or if it's got 20 pounds of boost, it might make 120, 130, 150 kilowatts there.
Yeah.
So while this thing has got boost in it, it is supercharged. The mid-range grunt is probably missing a little bit in this car compared to what you're used to.
And that will now be fixed. Scotty, thank you so much.
Mate, pleasure. Thanks for coming and letting
Thank you
us
to
have a
you
look at
and
it.
thank you to Dave. And now we get to planning, get to scheming what happens next to get a little more.
Get a little bit of mid-range in there. Nothing wrong with the top end, a little bit of mid-range and then go back to the track.
In the next episode of Mighty Car Mods, we're installing some epic modifications.